This week, 7 days, 4 Paris-based correspondents, 1 hour with us. Craig Kapidis of Quartz and the Atlantic Group. How are you, sir?
Smiling through the apocalypse.
Okay. And Elisabeth Moutet, columnist for the Sunday Telegraph. How are you?
Hello, very well.
France 24's Douglas Herbert.
Evening.
Evening. It was morning before. Now
it was morning. We
and
don't sleep.
Stefan de Vries, Paris correspondent for RTL4, Dutch broadcaster. Thank you for being with us. The World This Week, where you can always join the conversation throughout the week on Facebook, and on Twitter you can find us at François F24. Let's begin with this distress call out of Denver, Colorado.
I'm tired of Barack Obama and Mitt Romney.
That's why you're crying? Oh, it'll be over soon, Abby. Okay? The election will be over soon, okay?
Okay.
Oh.
Well, Abby, at the risk of upsetting you, I must warn you we're not quite finished with Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. Even a hurricane that featured unprecedented tidal surges could not throw the news cycle off course, not when the President of the United States goes to visit what had been a staunch Romney surrogate, the governor of weather-battered New Jersey, Chris Christie.
He accelerated the major disaster declaration for New Jersey without the usual red tape. I can't thank the president enough for that. Signed that this morning. And the cooperation from the president of the United States has been outstanding. He deserves great credit.
Douglas Herbert, was that a surprise?
Coming from Chris Christie, who, as we know, has been a staunch backer of Mitt Romney, a little bit of a surprise. I mean, what Christie and Barack Obama both had in common this week is they both basically said the election be damned. All that really mattered, put the storm victims first. That is what mattered. Politics was off their radar, at least. That's how they wanted to come across. It was unexpected for Chris Christie to do that, and there was a lot of speculation. What did he have ulterior motives? Is he thinking of 2016? Does he want to run? All of these different scenarios in the back of the mind. But when push comes to shove, if you don't want to be cynical about it, you could just say, listen, he was a governor in a frontline state that was perhaps suffered the worst devastation from this hurricane, and he was genuinely appreciative of a president who, unlike the predecessor, George W. Bush, who we saw with Katrina, actually was there front and center saying, you call me any time of day or night or whatever. Here's my number in the White House. I'm there for you. I'll release the cash you need.
Agreed? Craig Kapidis?
Yeah. America has become so jaundiced that everything has to be politicized. Obama did what a president was supposed to do in a situation like this, and Christie did what a governor is supposed to do. And if you listen to the reports coming out of New Jersey and Staten Island and other parts of New York, one wonders if the job is really being done. There's still quite a few people. I mean, this is the United States of America. Americans don't expect this kind of thing to happen to them. If you look at what's going on in Staten Island right now, the response has not been robust. You hear people saying, we can invade Iraq in one day and bring in hundreds of tons of equipment, medical supplies, MREs under gunfire, but they can't do it in a same quick time on their own backyard. And this is what we're hearing from a lot of people there. I'm sure they're doing their best, but is their best good enough right now?
All right, we'll pick up on that point. Certainly, some political cartoonists do retain a tinge of cynicism. Steve Sack, depicting for Minnesota's Star Tribune newspaper what he dubbed Hurricane Christie there, while New York area daily Newsday's Walt Handelsman offers a nod to the cancellation of Halloween trick-or-treating. As you see Chris Christie there saying, yes, Halloween's canceled, and no, this isn't a costume. Of course, it wasn't a full-fledged endorsement. And Elisabeth Moutet, we did get one, though, from the mayor of New York, who 4 years ago endorsed no one and was a former Republican.
Well, I mean, he's not really a Republican, and he is not very popular in New York. And in many ways,
not very popular. He's been re-elected twice.
He's been re-elected twice. He was elected 3 times overall, but he's not terribly popular, and so he's sort of caught the climate change card, and he's playing it for all it's worth. But also, it's Bloomberg to some extent. Bloomberg, he's doing this because it's almost a hobby. His real job is to be a media mogul and a multi-billionaire, and so he does basically what he wants, which is why he's not really a Republican and he's not really a Democrat. But when we talk about Christie, I mean, what was interesting was Bloomberg said no to Obama, thank you very much, you don't need to come to New York, thinking, this is more hassle than it's worth because New York gets all the attention. New Jersey doesn't get all the attention. It is not a state that people think of very often, and then with mixed feelings when they do. And so Christie was quite right to get the spotlight and the help in New Jersey, because that was exactly what his state needed. So in terms of feeling the urgency and what was needed, it was a perfectly good choice. And then Obama delivered, because he could certainly, when the president calls you up, you do cut through the red tape. And it was very nice to and very savvy of Christie to say Obama helped. But think what Romney said in his debates. He said, I reproached Obama not to have passed any law, any policy, especially not Obamacare, in a bipartisan way. And I have worked with Democrats throughout my tenure as governor of Massachusetts. And in some ways, Christie was more Romneyite than Romney.
Stefan de Vries, do you agree?
Yeah, it's the first time I hear Annelies Witmuth criticizing a billionaire. Usually she loves them, but that's another thing.
This is absolutely not true. This is absolutely not. I can list
proof.
I can list tons of billionaires I really do not like at all.
Be careful, we do have tapes.
I think it's a pity to see that we're surprised about the fact that such a disaster apparently can overcome bipartisan contrasts or conflicts, because that's, in my opinion, the biggest problem of the United States in these days, or in the last decade maybe. Everything has to be a matter of Republicans against Democrats. Maybe that's one of the reasons why the country isn't doing very well. And it's a pity that we have to... I think Chris Christie was really sincere in thanking the president, and he had no political agenda. Well, that's my analysis from here in Paris. But I think it's nice to see that for once the whole bipartisan humbug was put aside.
Impressive images out of both New Jersey and New York. Craig Capitas mentioning the problems in New York City that continue to this day. There's even a debate over whether the mayor made the right decision to stage the New York City Marathon this Sunday. On Twitter, Robert said, "Why not? My place of birth has a mayor with a fleet of personal private planes and helicopters who decries now climate change." Well, the marathon starts on the Staten Island side of the Verrazano Bridge, Staten Island home to at least half of the 20 killed so far in New York City. That's the start line of the marathon. The New York Post devotes its front page to the finish with this headline, which we can show you now: "Abuse of power." These massive generators are providing electricity to the marathon tent in Central Park, while New Yorkers suffer, says the headline.
You know, François, listen, I'm biased on this one. I grew up in New York. I used to volunteer at the New York Marathon. It's sort of embedded in my my DNA a little bit.
So should there be a marathon this week?
My knee-jerk, my gut reaction was I was happy to hear it was going ahead, which makes me look selfish, like I don't care about all those storm victims. We heard a Staten Island congressman saying earlier something to the effect, here we are still digging out bodies and these guys are running a marathon. I totally understand the controversy. It's not to minimize those people who truly are having trouble coming to grips with the fact they're running a marathon in the midst of a major disaster in New York. But I also think that there's a big argument to be made, and it is that cookie-cutter argument about New York's resilience. And I think there's something to be said, even psychologically, about staging this event. You remember after 9/11, they did run the marathon. It is a giant morale booster, and yeah, it is an economic booster. You can't ignore the money, the cash, $340 million for the New York economy. I, for one, am supporting the marathon. I don't want that to be taken as a blanket statement that I do not feel great empathy for the storm victims. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think both can happen.
You have these two gigantic generators. The logical question is, how come they're not in Staten Island? If they can have two generators at an event sponsored by ING, United Airlines, Nissan, under this rubric that is going to generate X amount of dollars.
ING and the Rudin family are giving $1.6 million
money. You cannot eat money. The only thing they can do with money in Staten Island or elsewhere is burn it for heat. My question is, if you have these two generators that are there, along with other generators, why isn't there a helicopter picking them up and taking them out to Staten Island or elsewhere where they're needed? I think that is a legitimate question.
Well, there's a good aspect, actually, whether the marathon will go on or not. There are over 2,000 Dutch people who will run the New York Marathon next Sunday. So that means next Sunday there will be 2,000 experts on rising sea levels and flooding management. So that's actually good news for New York City.
I have covered this marathon, and I'm completely with Doug on this one. I think it is a synonym of New York, of the New York spirit, and I also think that kind of spirit is very important. It's the spirit of the Blitz. It's, you know, life goes on, and you don't let the things sort of get you down, and I think it changes the general attitude of everything. We know that the sponsors are not so stupid as to not make comparable or matching sort of donations or higher donations, because otherwise their image would suffer. So in terms of even self-interest, we know that it's going to help. The other thing is, you know, marathon is the name of a battle. The whole race is the story of one man bringing Athens the news of the victory in the battle. So this is not just entertainment. It's got an old history. That race has a history, and I think it's very fitting that it should be raced today.
The irony. You correct me if I'm wrong here, Doug, but
you're wrong.
I am wrong. The marathon goes through all the boroughs. It doesn't actually go through Staten Island.
It's just the start line.
It's just the start. So any information that's going to be brought on the battle going on to Staten Island, on Staten Island into Manhattan, is not going to be complete information.
By the way, the politicians aren't the only ones being...
We have carrier pigeons as well. We'll be fine.
The politicians aren't the only ones being called out. The Atlantic's Connor Friedersdorf states the case against sending TV reporters out into hurricanes. It was an article posted a couple of days back, which prompted our friend David Page to comment on Facebook. I can think of a few people I'd like to see sent out.
Was he thinking of you?
I don't know, but that was one aspect of it. But of course, the storm has provided, to a certain degree, some argue that, and the polls seem to indicate it, that it has at least broken Mitt Romney's momentum going into this week.
Yeah, when you look at that, actually, the storm was a gift from heaven for Barack Obama, and I think he got a chance this week to show that he is a real president, better than George W. Bush did in New Orleans, for example. And it was good timing. It sounds cynical, but I think it comes to that. And the race is such a neck race that it's any event can be in the advantage of one of them. And this week, well, Barack Obama took the stage, and it was good timing.
So where does this leave Mitt Romney? On Tuesday, the day after Sandy hit the mainland, he transformed a campaign rally in Ohio into what was called an aid event.
Appreciate your generosity. It's part of the American spirit, the American way to give to people who are in need. And your generosity this morning touches my heart, and I appreciate what you've done.
Our correspondents who were out there covering it said it did feel a little bit like an uncomfortable moment for Romney. The people who come to the rally, they came for a rally, not for an aid event. It's a tough position to be in when you're the challenger in this situation, Craig Capitas.
Oh, absolutely. And Romney, in this instance, is doing what Romney has always done. Remember, he was raised as a Mormon missionary. There is no cynicism should be attached to Mitt Romney when he does these charity events. The man honestly does believe it. His history is one of this. But what else is the guy to do? He does not have the power of the bully pulpit of the White House. He can't go to New Jersey. He can't go to New York. He would look like an interloper. So he's doing the only thing that he knows how to do, and knows how to do with sincerity.
Now, there's something, meanwhile, the campaign since then has gotten back to normal. Both candidates are back to full-fledged campaigning. And this Friday, the final big data out before Tuesday's election, and something for everyone in the last job figures before the election. Republicans can point to rising unemployment in September, going from 7.8 to 7.9%. Democrats can stress an unexpectedly high number of jobs created, plus 170,000.
In 2008, we were in the middle of 2 wars and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. And today, our businesses have created nearly 5.5 million new jobs. And this morning, we learned that companies hired more workers in October than at any time in the last 8 months.
I mean, this was the last big sort of economic whopper before the elections. Well, the unemployment number, the fact it didn't go up above 8%, because that's a symbolic threshold. So that right away is good news. The Obama campaign team was just hoping it was going to remain below that 8% level. But I think the actual jobs added figure, 140,000, that's significant generally, and it doesn't always happen this way. But when you have jobs being created in the month or so before the election, that would play in favor of the incumbent president. That would be a piece of good news. But like I said, it's not always the case, and it could backfire as well.
And Elisabeth Moutet, final word on this?
I think there's still the situation is much worse than when Obama came to power. So in 4 years, there hasn't been that much job creation, and there has been a great deal of job destruction. I think it can go either way. I think it will not convince many undecided, and I think each side is going to claim it for themselves. So I think it's a draw on this one.
All right, so it's all about get out the vote between now and Tuesday. Stay with us. When we return in the world this week, we're going to look at another change of leadership that's in store, but this one over in China, as well as 2 tales of tax evasion or tax avoidance, if you will. Stay with us. This is The World This Week.